numbers comes in at is, you got 3 to 4 guys at that, and you've got, all these tasks you got to complete. And, you get a hodgepodge of experience. I mean, you can have guys who've got 20 years on, all the way down to a guy who's just catching his first fire. And you got to decide really quick what you're going to do. And so that's my background with it. That's kind of my general audience.
Chris, I met this one of the attendees in my class the other day was a young lady from a volunteer department in New Mexico. I had a nice conversation with her, and this just blows me away because my response area is 6 square miles, maybe 7 at the most. She had some responses that she would respond to that were over 50 miles away, and that would be like me. I mean, that's almost like me driving to neighboring Rochester just to go to an emergency call from, Rochester from Buffalo, New York. And I just, I can't fathom how that is. Are your citizens aware of that? Do they know that help might be 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away? And what do you do to, like,
we covered, it's interesting. We covered 260 square miles with 2 stations.
Wow.
So, and with that, we oftentimes will get the dispatch of a house on fire. Dispatch cannot get the citizens to leave because they know the situation that they're in. They know their house is done. Because obviously, we wish we pushed a sprinkler issue. So they're not leaving for the mere fact that they go back in and get all the heirlooms and stuff they can get out. They're going in for their pictures. They're going in for their wedding dresses. They're going in for anything and everything they can get out. Because they know that if they waited around till we got there, it's futile. It's done. And, and a lot of times, people will say, well, why can't you get here faster? Why can't you get here faster? Well, that gets a lot of people thinking, well, a paid department would be great. Well, paid departments get out the door faster, but they don't, I tell people, unless you're on a Saturn V rocket, you can't get to these places any faster than what you already do. And with the roads and the situations that you got to look with, when you're driving, a Saturn V rocket is not going to be practical. And, so at the same sense, what you got to do is you got to try and push to get more stations and get more volunteer recruitment up, because then if you can do that, then you can put more stations farther out to where you can cut down on your response time. Because even, like a lot of the towns in America and in rural areas, you've got your fire hall centrally located within the town. And so you can get guys that will respond and you can get out the door quick. But when you're making a 20 and 30 minute response time, that adds to it. And it's interesting because I remember a fire a couple springs ago where it was, I believe, a lightning strike. And they got out there to this house, and as they're fighting the fire, they had to cross this bridge, this little creek bridge, to get to this. And the waters, it was flooding like conditions. The rain was coming down, and so they had to have a guy actually watch the creek levels, and they ended up having to leave this house on fire because they were about to get cut off. And if they got cut off, they risked the water coming up and sweeping them away along with all the equipment and everything else. They had to get out of there, and so they ended up having to leave. And it's one of those things where it's like I had it described once to me. You kind of pay for the seclusion, and you kind of pay in a way for the remoteness of things.
Yeah. So you're saying your citizens, when they call 911 because they have a fire, in the back of their mind, there's a good chance they're thinking, my house is done because it's going to be 20 minutes before people get here.
Yep. Wow. They know it, and I mean, we've had them just this past winter. I mean, heating wise, and they'll call you, and I mean, I can recall we had the one. It was a possible chimney fire, and I mean, the roads were iced over. I mean, we had a great response time as far as for what they were. I mean, we got there relatively quick, considering the roads were still pretty much iced over and snowed over, and but I mean, by the time we got there, it was just the balloon frame construction. It was just throughout the house. I mean, and what we ended up having staffing wise, we had so much more fire in the voids and the walls that was running on us that we just couldn't catch up. And and that's oftentimes what you run into. And I mean, the biggest thing there is trying and instilling these people that you got to watch your living conditions. You got to watch your heating conditions. We had
So
one
fire prevention plays a big role in your department then.
Oh, it does. It does. And I mean, and a lot of times, especially with us, and I think anybody in a rural area can will agree that a lot of the socioeconomic statuses can lead to this. I mean,
how do you get the word out? How do you do fire prevention? Do you do a fire prevention campaign in October? Do you open a house? Do you have open houses? Do you do any public press releases and things like that? How do you get the word out about what they need to do to be more safe and also be aware of where the fire department's coming from?
The big thing that we try and do is we always hit the schools up and the daycares up every year. And we tend to, if you can get the kids talking about it, then you get, the kids, obviously, you get them excited. They take the stuff home, and then mom and dad hear about it. You slip information to them, these pamphlets and stuff take home, and, and you can get that going. And not only that, we also do a lot with the fairs and stuff like that as far as, just making your presence known and talking to anybody and everybody you can. And I mean, up till recently, now they're starting to push the billboards as far as, exterior fire exterior stuff that's burning off trash, because that's something else that we get a lot of. That's been, it causes more of the exterior fire spread kind of situation, like what we do with the UL thing. But, when that gets away. But, I mean, the biggest thing is just getting the word out there. But then at the end of the day, sometimes there's just situations that you can't control. Because, I mean, we've had some that have had, their heating with exterior sources because their electric has been turned off.
Right.
So, and in that sense, the electric company will tell you it's a vacant. We've cut the power off. It's 2 degrees outside. It's frankly not possible for somebody to be there. And, and lo and behold, they're just using exterior sources, kerosene heaters, etc. And they're living in there.
You have a 200 and how big's your district? 260 square mile? How many?
About 260.
Yeah.
260 square miles.
And how is that protected? 2 stations. How much apparatus? How much manpower?
So we've got about 35 on the roster. That's for 2 stations. Station 2, which is where I'm at, I mean, we've got a good crew of about 5 to 6 guys, and they're trying to recruit more out of that station. Station 1 has got the rest of them. That's still out to 35. And then what they do is we've got 2 engines at Station 1 and 2, and we've got 2 tankers apiece, and most of those are tanker pumpers. And then we've got 2 brush apparatus, but 1 brush unit per station. That's the complement of trucks. But then obviously, the thing that you got to look into with that is, and some of the stuff that I try and push with the rural water conservation things is, if you've got an engine, you've got 3 guys coming in, you don't know where your second dude's coming from, and without having hydrants, take a look at actually just bringing your, having one of your third due guys, have him drive a tanker, and then your other 2 guys bring a pumper. So instead of getting there with 1,000 gallons, you can get there with, you got like in our situation, a 2,000 gallon tanker, you can get there with 3,000 gallons and do even more with the 3 guys before you run out of water. So,
right.
Because that's some of the stuff there. It plays into getting a little strategic with your apparatus and the way you use your stuff and the way that you work with fires.
So you have 35 active members. What's your population in that 260 square mile district? How many are you protecting? Do you know?
Like 16,000.
About 16,000?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and among that, you're dealing with everywhere from, we've covered an inner city, which is basically your old school downtown, think of Mayberry, and then all the way out to, rural farm areas where it's, half-mile gravel lanes.
What's the city called? What's the downtown area?
Town area, you can, like, where my station is, the town that we've got is like a little under 400 people, I believe. The hydrants there are, it is hydranted, but it's enough for maybe some, 1 3/4 line.
So some of your area. Is hydranted, right?
Some. When you look at a lot of this, they put the water mains go through, but the thing is your water mains may be in, but your hydrants are still a mile or two apart, sometimes even more than that.
Wow.
And some of what they call hydrants aren't really hydrant flows. Because, see, a lot of times what we run into a lot of times is the water department will actually gate back on the main line, the feeder line, because these old farmhouses are not set up plumbing-wise for these pressures. So they'll gate these, some of the main lines could be about an 8-inch main, but they gate them all back. So you're not going to get an 8-inch amount of water. You're going to get a trickle of that, because these houses, if they open that line up, you'd start blowing, municipality water mains apart, because one, some of these systems are over 70 years old,
right,
like in my town,
right.
But then two, where you look at what the houses have been plumbed with, you start blowing them apart because they weren't put in right when they started running the water back when they started getting city water in. So a lot of issues there. I mean,
hey Chris, I got one more question for you. They're giving me the sign that I can't believe it. Our time's almost up already. I'm just curious. You have 35 members, and like you said, when you get a fire and it's in a non-hydrated area, you need to get the tankers out right away.
Yep.
Real quick, do you have a good driver training program to get these people qualified? Do you when people join, are they driving pretty quickly, or do you have a structured program? Because I know you can't just throw anybody behind the wheel of a tanker truck, and I think you probably agree with that. So do you guys have a formal program?
Well, they do a driver's training course almost, if you will. The state, we're kind of lucky because we got a state fire commission, which is kind of the training coordinators for the state. They do a class that they require all apparatus operators to attend, but we then tend to do a field test with usually an officer or an engineer already, to where you have to be signed off to drive an apparatus. So,
gotcha.
And I mean, and it creates issues. I mean, because we're still dealing with, stick shift tankers and automatic engines. So you get guys who,
wow,
they may be able to drive an engine, but they can't drive a tanker. Because 2,000 gallons on a 10-speed, it can add a different blend to it if they're not familiar with how 10 speeds work. So, but like I said, we're going to definitely do some more with you. I'll come on your show and we can do more of this.
Absolutely, because I think you definitely have some issues as a volunteer department that I don't have. And I bet you there's a lot of listeners out there that have those same issues. So we will pick up on this again down the road. And I really want to thank you, Chris, for calling in. And real quick, plug your show. When's your show on? And tell us real quick, if it's all right, do I still have time to tell them about your show real quick and when it's on and what you talk about, and direct some listeners that way if they're not already listening.
Well, we do the small town tactics and tools. I deal more with the tactical decision making and the issues that are around the tactics and the first two decisions. The volunteer rural areas and the combination departments and the your subdivision style departments in the suburbs, what they may face and encounter. So typically we try and do the one a month thing. If I can't get in with the amount of shows we do now, I'm either doing a Saturday show or a Wednesday show, and I try to put a punch in there for whenever we're going to be doing it, and try to create like a little ad for it. But I think our next one scheduled on Wednesday nights in June, and then we're probably going to be doing a weekend show here in May. So,
all right. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you real quick, how do they get a hold of you?
I'm always on Facebook. Email's a good way. I'm at CWillis, CWILLISFF @gmail.com. And
that was CWillis.
CWillis.
FF?
FF.
Okay.
FF@gmail.com.
Great.
And that's going to be the best way to get a hold of me. And then, like I say, you and I, we've got some things we're going to do. And
absolutely.
So it'll be a big year. This will be a big year for us, buddy.
It will be. I really appreciate you taking the time today to call in and help me out here on the show. Much appreciated, Chris. And I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Okay.
All right. You take care. Take care, Scott, and to your coworker there with you. I don't remember her name, but you guys take care. And Tom, stay safe, buddy.
You too, brother. Hey, I just want to finish, if I could, on a quick quick note here, Scott. Am I okay? I know I want to thank everyone for listening in. This is Fire Engineering Blog Talk Radio. This is the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. My name is Tom Merrill. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Fire Engineering, the Penwell Corporation, Bobby Halton, everybody at Fire Engineering that does this and invites us here, because it is, as Chief Lasky says, Disney World for firefighters. We are sponsored by Wright Rescue Systems. We want to thank them for sponsoring us, and they offer a great product. I can't wait to go on the floor again and check it out again. Check it out, Wright Rescue Systems. Go online and Google that, because it's a great firefighter rescue system. And also, just want to let everybody know that I'm privileged that our fire department, the Snyder Fire Department, we were contacted by Chief Halton a month or so ago, and asked if the Battalion TV series, or the Battalion TV show, which is internet-based, could follow us around and get our experiences here at FDIC. One of our young members, one of our newer lieutenants, tweeted out that he was coming to FDIC for the first time. So they were excited when they saw that tweet to get a hold of him and get his experience as a first-time attendee. So we have been followed around by the Battalion TV producers, and it's a great show. If you want to check it out, you can get it at either fireengineering.com, FDIC.com, and what was the other one? There's a third. Fire Apparatus Journal?
Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment.
Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. So there's 3 different ways to find it. It's called the Battalion TV, and it's real excited to be doing that. And again, incredible training here. I know I stumbled a little bit through some of the classes that I was describing as we were having some internet problems, but one last thing, if I may. Out of all the classes I've taken, out of all the training, all the networking, all the people I've talked to, one issue continues to come up in our conversation: leadership. Leadership in the American Volunteer Fire Service. Leadership, leadership, leadership. Our fire service, our worldwide fire service, is craving good quality leadership by people with integrity, people who mean what they say. I just heard a quote. I was in a big room session with Chief Halton, Lasky, and Salka before coming over here. And one of the things they said that caught my eye is, behavior is the truth. And in all the classes on leadership that I've gone to, not just now, but in previous FDICs and other reading I've done, I've noticed that all these organizations share some common ideas on leadership. And they were shared again in the military class I took yesterday. Integrity is everything. Integrity is the one thing that can't be taken from you. Integrity, if you lose it, it's because it's your fault. You are the only one that can lose your integrity. You choose to give it away. It can't be taken from you. You give it away. Think about that. Integrity is doing the right thing even when people aren't watching. That's huge. Other leadership traits that are very, very simple: open, clear communication. Listen to your people. Some of the best ideas sometimes come from those that haven't been in that long. And if it's not an idea you want to implement, at least be receptive to listening. Communicate change. Before you maybe enact changes, run it through with some people to see what they think. Don't just enact it without discussing it and reviewing it with others. Embrace some simple ideas to increase morale. What's wrong with logos on fire engines? What's wrong with putting a logo on a firehouse table? And train, train, and train. Because in any profession, and we are a profession, in any profession, you get better by training. And we are in a profession that can kill us if we're not prepared and trained properly. Thank you so much for listening in to this short installment of the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. I really appreciate it. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook at the Professional Volunteer Fire Department Facebook page. I'll give you my personal email, tamerrill63 at AOL, yes, AOL.com. My daughters, I have 4 beautiful daughters. They make fun of me all the time because I still have an AOL account, but it works. TA Merrill, that's MERRILL 63 at AOL.com. The Professional Volunteer Fire Department Facebook page. Reach out to me and tell me what you're doing out there. Tell me about your concerns. Tell me about your success stories, and be safe out there. Thanks for listening in.
sponsor who's allowing us to do this here at FDIC in Indianapolis, Right Rescue Systems. Be sure and look them up, take a look at them, and give them an opportunity to help you out if you're in need of those types of systems and equipment. So we'll introduce the crew who allows us to do what we do here, and they teach the bailout. They do a phenomenal job. They're the ones that work directly with the students every year. And I'm going to go to my left this way. And at the end, we got Andrew Credo, Andy Sears, Sharp Dressed Man, Jeff Whifflemeyer, Kelly Foster, and then behind me, Scott Holsey, Gary Graff, and way in the back, who they're trying to hide. We'll try and squeeze them in tight, is Steve Hydebreeder, the legend, the myth, Captain Mario Montero, Kyle Sanders, and David Canas. And we want to thank Scott and Shannon and Pinwell and Fire Engineering for allowing us to be here and just say a few things about our FDIC experience, answer any questions that might come in off of the video or the radio phone call. Again, 760-454-8852. So who wants to share something from the classes we did or something you've seen today? I know the exposition is opened up and the floor is really crowded. Seems like we've got a really good turnout for students. The classes have been full. The hallways have been jam-packed. It's hard to get to where you want to go, which is a good thing. And it's an experience that every firefighter should have the availability to do. So Kelly, you're right here next to me. So
All right. Kelly loves it. That's right. Just the interaction with the students has been fantastic. We had a great group come out to our classes. Everybody was fired up from the get-go for both days of our sessions. I feel it went pretty well. We got to meet a lot of them after class, out at dinner through the evening, a lot of them coming up to us. They really appreciated how much time we spent with them. They learned a lot. That's pretty humbling just for those guys to come up and meet with us after class and relay that information. It kind of makes you feel good, like, hey, we really got our message across.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing on training of this large a scale is the firefighters that you pull from all over. We're used to kind of training in our core areas, close to where we work, or even just in our state. But we're talking from people all the corners of the United States and even further.
All over the world.
All over the world.
I had a dude from two guys from South Korea.
Australia.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. And so on and so forth. And these guys, want to take our class and to be exposed to this was to me, it's inspirational to have, training with this level at this many people. It's these contacts are amazing. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and something that's unique to FDIC is that you get to have contact and influence with so many students in a real short period of time. You get to work with great vendors, and again, the sponsor of this program is Right Rescue Systems, but engine house training and our ability to do this bailout class is predicated on large numbers of equipment. And we've created some relationships with some vendors that we'd like to give mention to. If you please visit their booths and let them know, is Sterling Rope. They provide us the systems, and we don't sell any of this equipment. We just simply use it and create the relationships to be able to provide the type of training that we can do here at FDIC. Sterling Rope has been fantastic. Honeywell has provided harnesses for us, and day use systems are the only reason really that we can provide this with the safety factor that we have. So we want to make sure we give them a shout out. Outside of that, like Andy had said, we had people come in from Korea. We had them from Alaska, the West Coast, the East Coast, Hawaii, Canada, Australia. So, it's really fun to get to talk to the people and listen to the challenges that they're dealing with in their departments. If you think that the things you're going through, wherever it is you are unique, I can assure you that you're not alone when you talk to these people from all over the place. So, Mario, I know you. Yeah. Well, we really, Mario is one of the cogs in the wheel that we have to have for this class and as a company. And he's a very humble person and quiet guy, but we like to. He's very wise. He's like the elder. We listen to what he says. So, what'd you notice this year, Mario?
No, I just think the interaction that we had with the students was phenomenal. We had a lot of feedback during the class, even after the class, just walking around. downtown and even through the convention center, every student that I came across had nothing but good things to say about these instructors, which they're a great group of instructors. They do a phenomenal job teaching this class. So, and I'm very honored to be part of this with these guys. But didn't hear anything negative, believe it or not, from our classes. Everything was very, very positive, and they had a great experience. And I believe just the feeling that I got was they're going to pass it on to their chief officers to bring in more of their firefighters to this class in the future. Good.
You know, there's a couple of things that kind of stick out to me about, you know, when we come up to FDIC, and this is our second year being able to have the blessing of teaching hot classes is one, you know, we work our tail off when we come up here to get set up. Most of us were here all weekend setting up, getting things put together. Most of us were, but I mean, come in Friday and we hit the ground running and working hard, full 8-10 hour days of prepping to go. So we kind of get caught up in our own piece of doing it. And it's cool because you're with a bunch of guys who are just hardworking, and whatever needs to get done. It's like everything that's good about the fire service is embodied. And with my brothers, I'm sitting here, these aren't just fellow.
Do heroic things every day that a lot of us are never going to hear about. But he really related his story to how everybody in that room, everybody here at FDIC this year, could be a hero when you least expect it just by being an organ donor. And I think it's a message that needs to be reiterated, needs to be considered and talked about, because that is something. You never know when you're going to be affected by that and when you can save a life. And I just wanted to mention that again in honor of Steve's speech, in honor of Molly, his wife, who's recovered and just she's been healthy since the lung transplant. So if you get the time, sign the back of your license, go to the organ donation website and consider that to save a life. And you don't have to be a firefighter to be a hero, and you can do it in that way. So you get the opening ceremonies. Obviously, the exposition floor is open. A lot of classroom sessions. Jeff here, he's all dressed up. He does have his short socks on, though. He didn't compromise that much. But if you're in the convention center, you don't want to miss Jeff's class here at 3:30 Eastern time here. Jeff, what's your class?
Truck company operations for the engine company firefighter.
You're a rescue guy, right?
Yeah. and an urban guy talking about suburban
right
skills.
But it's going to be a good class.
Yes.
It's going to be a good class. So if you're listening live, you're here in the convention center and you're you need something to do at 3:30, make sure that you give Jeff a look. He's going to do a great job. And there's been classes all day. You got classes the rest of this afternoon, classroom sessions tomorrow morning. Tonight, don't miss the Courage and Valor Fun Run. I think the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation Stop, Drop, Rock, and Roll. It's a tongue twister. Is tonight. Tomorrow, the stair climb. Even if you can't participate, sign up, support it. It's an important cause. And a lot of these things, even if you can't participate in them, if you can at least register so that these things are funded and they're maintained and they're going to the good causes that they were set up for. So anybody else got anything else? Over here, Steve? Nothing?
Probably one. I'm sure it's been mentioned. I probably forgot it by now, but I'll second it. Is the students also are what really make this class, because they come in motivated, they're ready to go. We beat the crap out of them for 3.5 hours, and they're still ready to go. Even people that are afraid of heights, they never gave up. They went down, they did extra practice, and everybody did the skill. So shout out to the students, because they're what make the class.
Definitely.
They make our job very easy.
We wouldn't be here without them. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do any of this without the students.
Well, that's another thing too, as well. Like you said, these students come with multiple experience and no experience, and somehow they all leave learning something and practicing something new, and even teaching us some new things, taking their ideas. I mean, it's neat to see that interaction with the students.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Jeff?
I was tagging off Steve now. I thought it was amazing. Everyone left with the skill, like Andy says. They could all perform it. Even the people that came in there scared of heights, like Steve said, or maybe physically couldn't do it exactly how we said. We worked with them, pulled them aside, one-on-one coaching, and we got everyone to perform the skill before they left our class, and that's pretty amazing to me.
That was the moment that Jay got to fill in. That was pretty spectacular.
We couldn't do it without Jason.
Amen to that.
Face the mail out.
All right. Well, on behalf of Fire Engineering and to thank Fire Engineering, Bobby Halt and Diane, Pinwell, Shannon, Scott, all the people that make this happen, because this isn't just happened this week. This happened starting Monday of next week. And they do this all year to make this what it is. Follow Fire Engineering, follow FDIC, because there's opportunities throughout the year. There's ways to get you here that you can get involved in. And when those opportunities come out, they'll be all over the social websites. But follow it, not just this week. Follow it 365 days a year. On behalf of all the guys here at Engine House Training, thanks to Bobby, Diane, Shannon, Scott, Pinwell, FDIC, all the other instructors that teach here and supporters, the advisory boards, and most importantly, the students that come through here and allow every instructor here to come here and do this. So
Shout out to our site supervisor.
Our site supervisors, the guys from Indy, Andy, Brandon, the chiefs from IFD that came and stopped by. And last year, our site supervisor, Chief Paul Martin, we miss him.
Love you, buddy.
He's awesome.
The guys from Lafayette.
Guys from Lafayette that kept their truck there all day. We could go on and on because so many people make this happen, and we're truly appreciative. So with that, we'll sign off. Thanks.
muted. Politics and Tactics, where education meets experience and expertise. Learn from the decision makers and talk one-on-one with elected leaders. Being a great firefighter is not enough. Politics affects our staffing, budget, and equipment. Get involved. And now, Frank Ricci, Anthony Avila, and Chris Pepler.
Welcome to Politics and Tactics. We have a Google Hangout today and a radio show. I got some great guests, and we're going to start off with Mario. Mario's been out in the hall, and Mario's been telling me that Jason Hoevelmann is now the face of bailout. What's going on here at FDIC? I remember when Jason was this big. Come on, Mario, tell us. Why is he the face of bailout?
Because he's what makes our company great.
Oh, wow. Look, okay. You earned a trip back. Mario said, make sure you ask them first over there. So he just earned a trip back to FDIC next year. That was a good answer. I want to go to the other guys. Just everybody introduce yourself real quick.
Gary Graff.
Dave Connors.
Well, where do you work?
Pacific Fire District, St. Louis County.
I volunteer in Augusta Fire Department, and then I work full-time at Sullivan, where I'm a captain.
So you're a two-hatter.
Two-hatter.
This is Politics and Tactics. We love two-hatters. All right.
John Kugler. I'm a volunteer at Monroe Fire Company in Pennsylvania, and I'm also the owner of Storage Logic PPE gear dryers.
And see, that's important because FDIC, while we're here for the training and firefighters are here for the education, we all know that our members come out for the shows as well. And the fact is, a lot of the instructors, the logistics and everything is paid for by our vendors. So our vendors are very important to us.
Kevin Riley from New Haven Fire Department.
Mario Montero, St. Louis City Fire Department, Rescue 1.
In St. Louis.
In St. Louis.
Oh, terrific. So how did bailout training go for Hot? How was your class?
Went excellent. Whoever was logistics this year, they did awesome on ordering in the right weather. So that worked out.
That's Dave Rhodes.
Well.
Dave Rhodes takes care of the weather.
Thanks, Chief Rhodes. We appreciate that. But no, it was great. We had a very energetic group of students. Some of them, whenever we get into the class, we get to the portion to go to the third floor. They get a little bit nervous the first time they take the look over the edge, but by the end of the day, everybody was comfortable with it. And again, we were talking earlier with their enthusiasm with it. It really makes us feel good about what we're trying to do for the students at the end of the day. So, excuse me, but it was a very good day. Very good 2 days of some hands-on classes. Students came away with something, and us as instructors had a good time and fun teaching it.
See, these guys from St. Louis, you can't trust them though, because Sean Gray and PJ Norwood said that everybody went to their classes and there was no one in any of the other classes. So you're saying that PJ Norwood, the minister of propaganda out there on Twitter, he's just lying, right?
Yeah, we stole a few from them.
You stole a few
I
from them.
hijacked their bus.
Something on bailout that I talk about across the country is I think it's great because it puts a ladder essentially at every window. Okay? However, one thing that I think we're failing when we teach bailout that I think needs to be stressed, and whenever in our Tactical Perspectives DVD, we kind of hit upon it in the Mayday DVD, is I'd like to see departments out there that when they build their simulator and everybody's looking at what everybody else is doing, is to actually build a room on the simulator so that when they come in, they could shut the door and then bail out. Because we have seen where firefighters bail out and they go by a perfectly good door because of muscle memory, and now they're in the flow path. Wow, PJ would be proud of me. I said flow path. So now they're in the flow path, and now they're forced to bail out. So that may mean the difference between getting a ladder up to that window and them having to bail out. If you have a firefighter that bails out on your fire ground, that is essentially a failure of command on every single level. But I do believe that it's imperative that firefighters have them. But what's your takeaway on having a door to create that muscle memory before they practice their bailout?
Oh, absolutely. You know, because of the situations that we're in, we always try to teach, you know what, don't put yourself in that situation where you have to bail out. But number one, that's a last resort thing. So always have awareness of what's going on around you all the time. And if you have the easier avenue to get out, that's what you're going to take. Yeah. Absolutely.
So Jason, did you hear that? Mario said next year you have to build a door before your bailout simulator. You know, that's great that you're committing him to changing his whole entire program. That is just phenomenal. That is just phenomenal.
But also, Frank, something I know they touch base upon, you know, when you're bailing out, that's a situation where you're maydaying,
Yeah.
getting out. So
That's the end.
activating the pass, you know, as muscle memory, because if it does malfunction and you hit the ground and you go unconscious, no one's ever going to know you're there. So activating your pass is also important besides shutting that door. So there's other things fundamentally that you should think about doing, not just hooking in and jumping. Yeah.
And one of the things we make sure that we include with the class is trying to emphasize to the students, we're going to teach you a skill that we hope you never use, except for in a training situation. It's a tool in the toolbox. And one of the ways we really emphasize that is with Mario. Mario actually has a story of a situation he had to bail out of, and he didn't have his kid at the time. And so he's actually a bailout survivor. So he tells his story.
So Mario's a little humble. He's sitting back here.
Yes.
So Mario's the face of bailout, not Jason. No, tell us your story. That's why we're here at FDIC.
These guys are a great group of instructors. There's nobody else that would rather be instructing.
Mario's very serious here today. The only person who's going to watch this is PJ and Jason.
Jason. Right?
Tell us your bailout story.
My story is, you know, just in a nutshell, you know, and I really, outside the bailout aspect, I like telling my story of the mistakes that I made, because at that time our department did not have bailout systems, but I had my own. And I wore this bailout system religiously on every call that involved a fire. And I remember going to this fire, putting my bailout system on and taking it off and leaving it on the doghouse of the fire truck, telling myself, you know, I put it on thousands of other times, and I won't need it this time. And that's when the time I needed it, I didn't have it with me. So I became very complacent. And that's the story I like to share, is that complacency aspect that potentially I could have died because of my complacency. And I try to stress to firefighters, don't ever make that mistake. Very, very important. So we went to a residential fire with a 3-story brick. You know, it was just an officer was coming down from the 3rd floor, and I was on the 2nd floor at the time, and I asked him what he needed. He said the fire was out. There's some heavy smoke on the 3rd floor. Find some windows, open them up. So I proceeded to the 3rd floor with 2 other firefighters, and as soon as we made our way to the AB side, conditions changed where, really quick, where I called for a line to the 3rd floor, called for a ground ladder to the 3rd floor, and a mayday right away. It just happened that quick. Unfortunately, the ladder that they grabbed was our 24, which was in front of the building. That was the closest ladder that they could get. It fell pretty short.
Well, I'd say.
So the only option that I had, and the firefighter I was with had, was to bail out from the 3rd floor window. Fortunately, the other firefighter that was with us, because of his position, he was actually able to dive to the stairwell and make it down to the 2nd floor.
How'd you make out?
I'm still here. No, I ended up breaking my back, sprained my ankle. The other firefighter broke his back and broke his leg pretty bad, to the point where they thought that was going to be his injury, that he would not come back to work. It was his leg. But he fought through it, and he's back to work.
And you're back to work too. That's great. That is a blessing. We're glad you're here teaching at FDIC.
Well, thank you.
You really are. This is spectacular, and that's what FDIC is about. You know, nobody here is a super firefighter. We're all here to make mistakes, we recognize them, and we're out sharing them. And that's really what makes the difference on this job. That is a remarkable, remarkable story. Come on, one up them. You got nothing. You got nothing on that.
You know, it's one of those things that hopefully I never have to ever get in that kind of situation. But, you know, working with Mario is every time he tells that story, it's just chilling to have to make that decision to bail out of 3rd story, knowing that you might not make it. Either way is, you can't stay in and take it, but you don't know if you're going to make it even if you get out. So it's very humbling. And I think with us and the company, that the group of guys and with Mario, is we're kind of bringing it full circle for us, is we train like we work. We want to really get guys confident with the skill of giving them reps. And, we do a longer class, which you talked about the door, we have them come in, which is a great thing if we have the time. But anyway, the guys here are just want to make sure they get the best training possible. We're not, like you said, superheroes. We're just guys who love the job, and that's what it's about. If I learn something every day from people, I mess up every day too. Ask my wife.
My first year at FDIC, I didn't go to any classes. I came here for a business meeting. I ended up in a bar and I learned 7 things. And I said, oh my God, imagine what I could learn if I actually go to a class.
This is unbelievable up here. I mean, this is my 5th year and it's just amazing. Every year it gets better. It's simply amazing.
Also, though, just something Mario touched upon with the complacency in a generic sense, okay? We all get complacent. It's human nature to get complacent. We have choices, okay? Am I going to mop that floor today? Sometimes we take a pass on that. But when it's something that not mopping the floor isn't going to kill you. When it's something that you have to make a decision based on something that could be
on my shift.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But no,
we'll work out too well for you.
But it's human nature to get complacent. We can't re-engineer ourselves. That's the way it is. But you have choices. So when it's a choice, ask yourself a second question: is this something I really want to be complacent with? And then don't be complacent with that. Right?
I agree.
Well, yeah, if you do the details, the small things all the time and make them natural, then the big things become easier for us to do. And that's that complacency thing. Do you skip this task today because you don't feel like doing it, or should you do it just because?
You have to.
Yeah, there's a reason why we go through a sequence of things as well, and that's to get that complacency out of the way.
And we even heard that in Mario's story. When you look at a firefighter line of duty death or a significant injury, you'll always find it's not just that catastrophic event. It's generally little things. The fire's out, that affects your decisions up there, and that the fate's not in your hands. You're relying on somebody else, but on the fire ground, we're always relying on other people's information. But failure usually comes into that drift into failure where it's small things. And then when the conditions are right, it culminates in that line of duty death or the injury. And the day you get hurt or the day you die in this job is going to start off like any other. It doesn't matter if you run 1 fire a year or 100. The fact is you can do everything right, still find yourself jammed up, and having another way out, who can argue about that? Before I move it over to John, I want to ask you, for the departments that are getting these bailout systems, the first I have 2 questions. One, are you just training them with one system? Are you training them with a couple systems here at FDIC? Logistically, how's that work?
With the systems that we use here, everybody's using the same system, and we actually had Sterling provides our systems that we use with the F4 and the Lightning Hook. So everybody's using the same system.
So that ensures continuity of instruction.
Yes.
And FDIC, we really thank Sterling for providing that logistics for us, for our members up here.
Even with the harnesses, some of the harnesses we get from Honeywell, so that every student can have a harness. Now this year was probably 50% of our students probably already had harnesses in their gear, which was a lot more
big
than
jump
last
from
year.
last year.
Last year we see maybe.
So you're seeing a trend in the fire
Yes.
service.
Yeah, there's more harnesses integrated into the PPE. But if a student has a system that they normally use on their job, we do let them get at least 1 rep on it from the 3rd story window. That way, not only are they developing the technique of setting their hook, they're at least going out 1 time on their system that they're going to hopefully never use in their department.
And just a word of caution, the rope systems are great, but if you don't practice with them or have the muscle memory with them, things can still go wrong with them. It's not just putting it in. And if you don't believe me, check out Tactical Perspectives Search DVD. I'm sure you guys seen the footage. Have you seen the footage?
I have.
All right, well, Danny Stratton, the captain from Camden, you'll see him. He's the big muscle head that's here. I love him. My stunt double. He probably did 14 reps out the window, and on the 15th rep, the hook pulled out, and he went sailing right to the ground. So good thing there wasn't much up here. So any brain damage was already predisposed, but we love Danny. He does a great job. He taught a class out here the other day going above the fire, and he's one of the best firemen I've ever worked with. So I really appreciate Captain Stratton, but it goes to show you, here's a guy who's proficient with it, and you can still make that critical mistake. So here's my last question for you guys. Then I'm throwing you out, and we're going to talk to John for a minute here, one of our vendors. If you got a rope system, you're a fire department, whether you're Mayberry or small city, for the training divisions, how often should they be training on their bailout systems to get that muscle memory?
Initially, you need almost a 2-day training course just to get comfortable with understanding the equipment, understanding the hook, even getting into lowers. Maybe you're running mutual aid with somebody that doesn't have a system. Setting your system up where you can do a lower for somebody that doesn't have one. Even Mario's situation, if he'd have had his system, if the other guy with him didn't have something, he could still lower him.
Right.
So, getting familiar with the system and making sure that everybody uses it. A lot of places use a rule of thumb of once a year. In my own opinion, that's not enough. My own opinion, once a quarter, get it out, get your training systems out, practice them, because again, it is a muscle memory, and we can lose that very easily. It can be replaced by something else if we don't increase our frequencies.
And the other nice thing is, if you do it once a quarter, you can incorporate your Mayday training.
Absolutely.
And we need to do more of that because we find that once a year just simply isn't enough. And if you change up that drill once a quarter, they're getting 4 different Mayday drills within that quarter, which is kind of good. And the other thing I see a lot of departments doing is, and I think the girls probably love being able to bail out of a 3rd floor window here at FDIC, because that's pretty significant. But a lot of departments are doing low props to just get the mechanics. What's your feeling on that? Because to me, that seems to make sense, but maybe I'm off.
No, that's exactly right, because you got to get the confidence and learn it low, get the muscle memory, just repetition. So you start out way we teach it. You start out with the window hang. You just do the hangs, do 3 reps. Coming in low, approaching low, you get out, you hang. Somebody can hopefully get you ladder, then you swing out. Once you're done with 3, or you're comfortable with that, usually about 3 reps, then we'll add something to the hang. Then we'll start incorporating our hook. So we might be come up, get your hook set, and then you hang, make sure you load your system, turn, and lower. Then we'll add something else. We'll do 4 or 5 reps on that. Then we'll add the window. We have a window prop. You actually clear the sash, clear the entire window. Then you come up with your hook, come out, do your hang, turn, and come down. So it's repetition on a low prop. So you don't think about it. That muscle memory is getting built. So when we go to high, I don't care what anybody says, because I'm the same way. I don't like going out a 3rd-story window. That's just me. That's not right. But that muscle memory is there, and you can see it. Yeah, I'm scared of heights. That's 100. That's what everybody says, and that's fine. But the muscle memory of approaching the window low, setting the hook, loading the system is identical. And these guys, the muscle memory is there. I mean, just repetition is huge. At our engine house, we have a low prop setup in the mezzanine. I try to do it at least once a month. Just start with hangs for this month. Next month, we'll go practice on the hook. Even just clearing a window sometimes, it's easy to get, we talk about complacent, clearing a window, we'll clear the sash and nothing else. So anyway, but that's what we're talking, we want to get the reps in and build that muscle memory. So it's when you come into a high stress environment, where you're going to have to do it, that's what you rely on is your muscle memory. And hopefully it's there.
You got to get out and train. Now, John's one of our vendors here, and I want to tie it back to safety of what you do, because you sell gear dryers. But here, the Courage and Valor winner was from my department this year, from New Haven, Connecticut. And one of the parts of the story that, while they said it was kind of just a nuance to his award, is they had a fire earlier that night in the snow. So his gear was wet. So his gear, well, I'll let you say, because you're the supposed expert.
Yeah.
So tell me why you don't want wet gear.
Well, yeah, here you go.
We believe it was a contributing factor.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, when your gear's compromised when it's wet, the thermal stability's gone. I know as a volunteer in State College, PA, I got cooked twice. And you'd think I would have learned the first time, but I didn't. And that started me on a crusade to say, how do I make myself thermally stable? And my other fellow firefighters with me. We really don't think about it because, salty is the way we were taught. The dirtier your helmet and your gear, the better you are. All it took was one time for me. The second time was a convincer. For your guy who won the Valor Award, his gear was compromised because of the snow. He lost thermal stability around the bottom of his turnout coat and probably the top of his pants. And I know for a fact if he was in snow,
it was right
boots.
here. Well, he was kneeling in a hoarding situation too,
and
crawling through.
So you had all kinds of moisture and water. If he would have had a chance to put his gear on a PPE gear dryer, even in between the runs, just for even an hour, he could have probably removed better than 60% of that moisture like that. My systems that I have in cooperation with Williams Direct Dryers out of British Columbia, What we do is we can actually dry the gear from the extractor wet in 2 hours. So you roll one of these into the station, it's 21 inches wide. You can put it anywhere. We built these to bring safety and stability to you guys. And I'm going to throw something else on the top of this too, Frank. Compromised gear is one thing, but what are you going to do when you don't wash your gear? Hopefully you guys all have some sort of rule or SOP, SOG set up after every structure.
Cancer's the new buzzword. We went from the 80s with hazmat, the 90s with technical rescue, and now we're kind of getting back to firefighters with suicide, cancer, taking care of each other, and the cancer issue does play into your gear.
Yeah, testicular cancer in firefighters is 2.2 times more great for us because we absorb between the legs and under the arms, the jaw and the neckline. That's where our gear sits closest to our bodies. The funniest thing about the cancer is it's your body temperature. You have a 0 absorption rate of the carcinogen. For every degree in Fahrenheit that you go up, it increases it by 400 times. I thought that was a bogus number until I started talking to the cancer foundations. So you can imagine your hood after a couple of jobs and you didn't wash it.
Good thing I'm the host because when my phone rings, it's okay.
So, I mean, you're pulling this stuff in. My former chief, God rest his soul, died because of this. And that was now the linchpin that said, let's fix this from the cancer side. So, and again, partner with Des Main at Williams Direct Dryers. Frank knows Des really well. We decided to design a firefighter safety system in these PPE gear dryers. And I have them down on the floor. 2 hours. I'm not kidding you, and that's all I've ever asked any firefighter in my 29 years of doing this. Guys, wash your gear, put it on. I took away your excuse now that you can't wash it.
And you got to remember, you can't just throw your gear in a conventional dryer because you'll end up hurting your thermal stability from the fabrics on a different end. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. When you start breaking down your gear, when you put it in a tumble dryer, you're breaking it down. There's a lint screen, right? You know, what's on that? That's not the belly button lint, is it? No, that's the that's the fuzz off of your jacket. Yeah, that's your pants, the cuffs inside, your hood. And the systems that we use an ambient or a warm air system that dries from the inside out. And what that does is that allows the fibers inside of the liners to re-expand back to where they are to give you that thermal stability on the inside. What it does on the outside is it allows it to, again, re-expand. But you're looking at the Nomex, the PBI, whatever they're making gear of these days. I'm going to date myself. My first was a 3/4 rubber jacket. Yeah, I don't look that old, but trust me. And but there was no way to really bring that thermal stability from flame impingement because you think about it, that's what's protecting you from the outside in, and you got to be able to protect yourself from the inside out. So that little bit of thermal stability that you get actually means a lot between living and dying. And your guy got real lucky from what you were telling me, Frank.
And also a more common thing with training, it doesn't have to be like, okay, you got your gear wet at a fire. It's just training. That sweat, like we experienced with the flashover container a few years back. Frank and I were doing a flashover container and we did a number of evolutions, and the sweat actually started to cook underneath our gear and we got burnt. So, and I saw a guy today, same thing. You know, he was doing an evolution with the hot and he did about 70 burns. With that sweat, it's a quick way to dry out that sweat so you instill the integrity of the gear from sweat. You know, it's not just necessarily water.
Yeah, some departments issue a second set of gear, some don't. So to me, the ultimate story is the PPE gear dryer. Yes, I want the one that I produce. Don't get me wrong, but I'll use anything.
I didn't think there were any other gear PPE dryers on the market. Yes, we're going to have to teach him a little bit better. We're here at FDIC, and I haven't seen any other gear dryers. Yeah.
What can I say? Now, I can tell you, I've been around and I haven't seen them yet either. But your point, because you run into, you run a lot of car accidents, technical rescues. You're wearing your gear and you're not in the fire, but you are. That sweat gets you.
Yeah, especially in summer.
And there's no substitute for laundering your gear. Don't get me wrong. There's no substitute for that. But when you go from sweat to sweat to sweat, you are now wet. You know what it's like. Yeah. It's like putting on a clam. Sure. You don't want to feel like that. It's nasty. It smells. And when you use the ambient or warmed air and it dries from the inside out, the mold, the mildew, you're now saving money. We don't think of it from that point. But if you get anybody here get 10 years out of their turnout gear? No, hell, even I don't.
We get forced to get.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
about 40
Yeah.
years out of it. But if I wouldn't take care of it, I probably wouldn't get 4. So, but even by doing that and drying it properly, I know when I go out and my goal now in life is to make old firefighters out of young firefighters.
I'm saying for the chiefs
mentors.
out there, properly drying your gear not only keeps your members safe, but will also increase the life of your gear so you get the NFPA 10 years out of your gear.
Most people will. You know, the 1851 requirement, you know, we all know what NFPA stands for in our own lingo in the house, but for the reality of it, when you're looking at that 10-year gear span, lifespan of the gear, one of the things that you have to do is clean it. Then you have to dry it, and you got to dry it properly. It's we're featured in Fire Engineering, Firefighter 1 and 2. I believe it's on page 46. Bobby Halton called it out to me one day, and I was like, oh, man. But
I wrote that chapter.
Did you? But it's right there, and it's the recommended way. And all we did in life was say, guys, stay safe, healthy, and protected, and here's an option to do it. And I got to tell you, the fire departments that have this in place, they're telling the police departments about it, the EOD squads, the military. I mean, it's starting to really make a full turnaround because we all run into the same stuff. Granted, ours is a little worse, and even cops need heroes. That's why they have us. But yeah, when you think about that stability standpoint from safe, healthy, and protected, we can deliver it to you. And every one of us goes home every night, right?
And who wants to wear wet gear? You know, I used to have that conversation with Desmond Maine all the time. He'd want to give me technical aspects when we were writing a safety chapter with Anthony Avillo. And I was like, the main selling point for a gear dryer for the firefighter is who wants to wear wet gear? Nobody wants to put on wet gear when it's cold, especially in the Northeast, when it's cold or even when it's hot. It's uncomfortable. It's just nasty. So with firefighters finally paying attention to cancer and firefighters doing a much better job of understanding how their gear works. And it's coming along, but it's still not there yet. You ask a cop about their bulletproof vest, they'll tell you everything about it. You ask a firefighter about their turnout gear, they're like, yeah, I put it on.
Yeah, I can tell you, it's clean is the new salty. I'm no marketing person, but that's kind of the push that I'm putting behind it, to say clean is the new salty. And yeah, because you got families, guys. You're going to have kids coming down the road if you don't already have them. You got to take care of yourself in order to take care of the future. And all I want to do is give you one hand up. One hand up. So here's the paid political announcement. Come visit me at booth 13109 out in the main hallway.
There you go. Do you have a website too, John?
Actually, we do. It's www.ppegeardryer.com. There's a series of YouTube videos out there. It shows you how easily these things are dressed and work. We talk a little bit about thermal stability, a whole lot about the cancer component. It's filmed right in my volunteer station in Pennsylvania. So, guys, it's coming from the heart to your heart.
Well, we thank you for being a vendor out here at FDIC. And I can say this, I have a Williams direct dryer I have a boot dryer in my garage, but I also have the dryer at my firehouse. So, and the guys love it. It's, I think it does 6 sets at one time. So it's a sturdy product. You can actually roll it around the firehouse and move it. And in the town that I live in, they also have a Williams direct dryer. So we really appreciate you coming out to FDIC because it's the vendors that help pay for us to have these hot classes, and to keep the cost of tuition for people to come here lower. So the show's not possible without the vendors. So we thank all our vendors. We encourage everybody to get out on the floor, shake some hands, meet some people, and take some great classes. I want to thank the guys from St. Louis. Thank God you're all right. And we really appreciate you coming here and sharing your story. And that's it for politics and tactics today. But first, before we go, who are you voting for in the primary in Pennsylvania?
Do I have a choice?
Well played.
Well, do I have a choice?
I don't know who's buying more tires.
corrected to traffic. We do have a fire in a one-story ordinary. Looks like it's about 49, 120, 125.
Unmuted.
Ricci to traffic control. Flat 5, flat 5. Over to 273, 273. Over battalion 18, 18 battalion. With a 273, 273.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the International Perspective. We got Lars and Art joining us today. And for all those listening, I apologize that you couldn't make it out to Indy this year, and hopefully we'll see you next year. We do have a guest call-in number if anyone wants to call in with any ideas for the show. It's 760-454-8852. So how you doing, fellas?
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, it's
fun to be at FDIC.
Yeah, it is.
It's always motivating.
So you guys have been here before?
Third time.
Third time. It's my first time over here, really having a blast. There are lots to see. You really grow lunches and all those classes that you wish to be in, and many of them just are running at the same time. So definitely I'll have to be here next year.
It's an embarrassment of riches at times. You start looking through the course catalog and you're like, well, I want to go here.
Yeah.
Oh no, I got to go here.
Yeah.
And this one too. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So it's a good problem to have, but that's the biggest problem here.
Yeah, and on your way to the class, then you meet some people, and then you have these discussions, and
yeah, hard to get to classes because it's so much to discuss.
It's hard to get to class.
Yeah,
that's real.
And also balance. What you want to do is you want to balance the ones you want to see and the ones who you don't think you want to see. I mean, you got to balance. All the things you have no idea really.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't recognize the person. You don't really know what the topic's going to be about, but it could be awesome.
Yep.
So you want to also not just pick the low-hanging fruit. You want to pick some of the, this could be really good.
Yeah, if you only want to go to classes where people are going to echo your thoughts and your beliefs, you're not helping yourself.
No.
You're not expanding at all.
You're not expanding. That's a word. And nice surprises as well. When you jump into some classes where you didn't think you were going to go, and you go along with someone else, and then you think, okay, there's very extremely valid points right here that I didn't think at all, or a different perspective on some stuff. Really enjoyed some of those surprises as well.
And as an international, it's always fun to, like Art said, get perspective.
Yep.
Because you of course you tend to see yourself in your own context and go like, why would they do that? And you go like, well, that's the explanation.
Well said.
Makes totally sense now. Yeah. But it's so hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's really that hard.
There is definitely an understanding issue. It's coming from abroad. When you need some explanations, you need to understand the context very well, and then things start to make sense. Otherwise, you fall really into wrong judgment and probably disregarding some stuff that probably is very useful.
Yeah.
Reminds me of guys on YouTube. They'll see the video and they'll just start bashing it, but you don't know their resources. You don't know what was going. You don't know anything about the fire other than one little perspective or a little snapshot in time. And then you're trying to compare that to your paradigm and what you have and what your resources are, and it doesn't mesh. So you need that context. I think that's really important. Like just you were saying in your class. I just came from Art's class, combined fire attack, which was awesome. So hopefully. Someone at Fire Engineering or Penwell will hopefully get that as a webcast or something one day.
I didn't pay for that plug though.
Not now.
He owes me a beer now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's about again looking at it, all these different perspectives. And yes, there is a lot of context difference between in states in the United States between rural and urban, between countries. Europe is more diverse and say. United States is, if you look at all of Europe.
That makes sense.
And we of course, as humans, you can't really dive into all the differences. You generalize, your tendencies, and the more you learn, the more you understand that there is always a thought behind doing it in a certain way or using a certain tool. It doesn't necessarily mean that the thought is correct all the time. You can't.
But there is a reason why.
There's a reason why every
There's
time,
a
and
reason
that reason is really important.
Yeah.
And looking at, the YouTube videos and go like, I think that's also interesting. I mean, like, I either use videos in two different ways mainly. Either is when I know everything about it and I understand, looking at what actually happened, or I use it, I know nothing about that for the fire department, know nothing about the fire really. But this phenomena here, or you don't want to call it phenomena really because it's physical
we can
chemistry.
explain it.
Because you just flame here or this here, you just pick out a certain part. You just leave out. I don't care what the fire service is doing. I just want to know, this is an interesting thing to talk about. Why would that happen? Well, in this case it would be this. In this case it would be that.
Usually, another problem with YouTube videos is they usually focus on things that go wrong.
Yeah.
Actually, there are not very many videos where they show you how things go when they go well. And certainly, if you add that to that lack of understanding of the context and the reason and reasoning, and usually leads to an understanding issue.
Yeah.
Very important.
And that's what I'm really excited about for this show and the show moving forward is understanding everybody's context, or at least understanding it better. The whole goal of this show is to introduce the fire service to the North American fire service, kind of generally speaking, to the broader global fire service and some movers and shakers in the global fire scene. We can all learn from each other, and I'm really excited about learning from some really smart guys and girls moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that the last episode, or the first one we did with Matt, was a good introduction because he's kind of a vital part of the history, and then we can move forward. Like today, I sat down with Shan Raphael, the fire battalion chief for Queensland Fire Department in Australia, and he's also one of those key players that really moved and shake, better part of Europe and a lot of places outside of Europe, and to have those kind of guests really gives you another perspective on the fire service as a whole, rather than just the fire service back home, which I have my own problems with, as we all do. But it really gives you another perspective. And I think that's going to be fun during this series and talk to a lot of those guys and girls.
Yeah. I think the fire service is thirsty for this too. That's why we get 30 to 35 people coming to Indianapolis every year to expand their minds and their skill set, their knowledge base. And that's also why for the past couple of years, it's not FDIC, it's FDIC International. Penwell and fire engineering have seen the need to expand too, and to make this more global. The world is so small now. I mean, we can communicate literally with the three of us here, anyone else in the world in real time now. Definitely. So the world's so small, information moves so fast that we'd be doing a disservice if we weren't thinking globally.
We're all facing very similar problems. I would say that, well, definitely fire behaves everywhere the same way. We're just following fire follows the same rules of physics and chemistry. It doesn't matter whether it burns in Sweden, Switzerland, the United States, or across the U.S. So probably the answers to some of the problems and some of the fire dynamics and some of the issues that we have in our background and solution that would come up in Europe will probably be helpful in the U.S. and definitely a lot of the stuff I've seen in the U.S. I've brought it back home and say this is something we actually can apply. We can blend in a certain way to feed our equipment, our staffing, and it's really important. I think bridging that gap between different firefighting cultures in the last 5 years, I've seen there's a lot of effort and a lot of benefit as well. And it was really something to thank that we had the opportunity to come over here, not only just to visit and to enrich ourselves in what we've seen, but also to kind of provide an international perspective on what's going on, how we deal with the same problem 10,000 miles away from here, a little bit.
Yeah, well said. We all have very similar problems. Some of us have found solutions. Some work a little bit better, might work in different situations. So let's find out all those solutions and figure out which one of those puzzle pieces that we can fit into our problems.
I mean, who doesn't have problems with limited budgets or reduced staffing or problems with politics or whatever? We all have the same problems. And I think, to make things like, FDIC International trying to push that, see that, what if, like Sean Raphael again, talking to him. Back in 1997, he went out into the world, looked at how things were going on in Sweden and UK. Went back, he had 3-4 years to introduce things like live fire training, fire behavior training, and those kinds of things. What those challenges he met, which is people challenges, mostly, in the organizations. That is the same challenge that a fire service in Spain is going to have when someone comes home and saying that United States are awesome at doing firefighting in big boxes. We need to be able to deliver more water. They're going to say, those Americans back there, they don't understand. So they have it's the same challenge. It's just reversed all over. And when you speak to someone else, with their experience, like Shannon says, well, don't do it all at once. Try to just nudge it a little bit. That this is the goal, but just take it piece by piece. I mean, just sit down and have those valuable small pieces go like, well, maybe I shouldn't run that as fast as I want to run. Maybe I should just take it a little bit slower, and maybe, it's better.
I've heard the analogy before. It's like pushing over like a big old pot machine. Like you don't just push it over. You got to get that thing rocking. It takes a couple goes, and then you can actually get to your end result that you've been trying to do for the whole time.
But it's true as well that I've seen a lot of things changing over the last 5 years, I would say. And it's a very exciting moment to be a firefighter, to be involved in a firefighting scene. Reminds me a little bit how in the 80s, firefighting completely changed in Europe due to what was being done in Sweden. And we got our firefighters, instructors, trained in Sweden, and it was a whole world what they saw out there and then brought back home. And I think this is being empowered as well by the fire research that is being made available to the fire service. Those fire research pieces are playing a very important role. They are relevant not only in the US, but also in Europe. There's nothing, I would tell you some more, and this is something I addressed in my class. I mean, the way the construction, the props are in that fire lab in Northbrook, it resembles much more our fire environment in Europe than probably we could ever think of. I mean, it's just what we have content fires in a structure.
Yep.
So you get that piece of information, which is actually breaking down into reports that can be handed out to the fire service, and that is having a huge impact. And that started, I think it's got it going. We got now several reports, and it's our responsibility, and this is very important, us being head of the fire training office or in charge of a standard operational procedures, SOGs, however you want to call it, in trying to transfer that research actually into the fireground. We have to put it in our procedures and our guidelines and how we operate in our training and transfer that. And it's probably for the fire service one of the biggest responsibilities right now that I would think we should address and commit ourselves and endeavor ourselves to do our best.
Yeah, well said. It's hard to go through any classroom here that has something to do with the fire ground and not hear Kerber's name talked about, or Madrikowski, or UL, or NIST, or ISFSI, or KTF, or anybody who's out there trying to quantify the fire ground. And I think it only makes us better. I mean, if you want to be a good quarterback, you should know about all things football, and not just quarterback, running backs, receivers, linebackers, etc. But if you want to be a good firefighter, you should know about all things fire, how fire behaves, how it reacts, what happens when I do this, what happens when I do that. And Steve and UL and everybody else who's doing this, there's a lot of players are only moving the fire service in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah. I just want to say that it goes in two ways. It's sad that it has been, and this is all over the world, that if the firefighter in the video has, another piece of equipment that I don't have, you kind of say, that's different. That's different. If you have different gear in a different country, that's not valid to me.
Your hose line's different.
Yeah,
your helmet's different.
Helmet's different. Look at those stupid things you have, and stupid space helmets you have in Europe. Your fires are different. I think that goes both over the pond. It's just silly. But anyway, so I hope that will be one of the things that, get more and more attention, that, well, it doesn't really matter what gear they have on. I can use a fire video from Spain saying, "No, look at this. This is a good fire tag. This is awesome." Doesn't really matter that the fire played out in Spain. It doesn't matter. But that also goes to fire research, and all credit to UL and NIST and ATF and all those organizations that does fantastic studies. Not right now, and what I really love about that is I get video with the data. And that is super when it goes to education. So, to have people showing the videos and then correlating the data, see what's happening.
Yeah.
But there's so much data and science out there in Europe. And in this tons of it.
Yes.
And it just goes to saying that if you're a fire nerd, or if you're a fire professional in any way, you want to learn your trade, if you're only looking at the UL studies, you're kind of looking through the world through a tube.
Well said. No, and that's something that I don't think that the global fire service, or excuse me, the American fire service is as attuned as many people in Europe are.
I think that Europe has a longer tradition of looking everywhere. I mean, of course we do terrible stuff, and we are poorly at it also. But I think in general, we've been better looking at, because Europe has such a long tradition at working together, like in the European Union.
Yeah.
It's been so much work. It's been natural to share it, kind of like between states in the United States. So we have a longer history of sharing between us. Maybe not as good towards Europe and America. We have been
definitely
really
not definitely, but definitely in between within Europe.
Yeah.
It's been, I would say, as soon as couple years after it all started in Sweden, this new approach of firefighting back in the times, probably a couple years after, it was UK training people, Spain training people, and the word spread out, and everything, those manuals were translated into all 28 languages we speak in Europe right away. And those videos were shared all over the place, so that's important. I think right now, if we get all those different research pieces that we have, doesn't matter where they come from UL or they come from Europe or any other party, I would say that we should dig in right now into trying to how they coordinate together. Okay. And we've seen what we can do with horizontal ventilation, vertical ventilation, PPV report just came not very long, a couple of days ago. But at some point we need to coordinate all that transitional attack, that PPV, and that is where we should probably put our efforts in, and where a lot of either research and as well collaboration with the fire service should be focused.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot to learn. Like Stephen want to do the coordinated fire attack, looking at how do you mesh that all together, how important, like you said on the big stage, that, when do you break that window, when is it considered coordination, when is it considered to be prematurely, breaking it and fire start going, when is it too late, when we have to work in that environment for longer than we have to. So I think that is a vital piece. But again, there is so much done in Europe on both bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Not so much on the coordination scale. There's more lacking there.
It is atomized to a certain way. The research in Europe is a little bit atomized.
Yeah. It's like
it is
how
discontinued, and that is very important. I mean, which is very important in UL, is that fire services with very different perspectives, and some internationals. I collaborated with one of the UL panels. They're all inside the study as well, and then there is a continuity in how those studies link with each other, and you can see that actually the vertical ventilation is used in the same house, the same prop, and then it's used in several other studies. In a way, you can correlate results and correlate a little bit the tactical considerations, and that is what I think it makes this research from UL very important. And of course, there's.
But I would like to wish that would, if they would say, look at this, water droplet science done in the Netherlands, look at this study of this, and build on all those studies instead of just building on the internal UL studies and NIST studies, because it is a American science built on American data. Previous on there's
self-criticism as well that we should do, Europeans, is that to a certain point we fail to bring that report, that science, in a way the Forest Service can handle that right out of the shelf.
Oh yeah,
and that's very important.
Oh yeah, I think that is important. That as a whole in Europe, that we have been poorly at implementing research.
Very poorly.
Absolutely.
However, so we start this research project, which ends up in an online training program. Any firefighter in the world can hook into it. I mean, that is where you use.
And one place that UL does get this information is when we're designing the studies, and prior to designing the studies, at least this is what happened with the positive pressure attack and ventilation study, is they gave us a bunch of different resources for us to look up, a little white paper more or less. And in that, there was a lot of reports from Europe, from Carroll and from a bunch of other guys throughout Europe who had done a lot of work with fans. And then that was used to help kind of design these experiments. So it's very indirect, but there's tentacles to Europe in there as well. But it's definitely indirect.
It should be, because I think it's a disservice. I think I understand why it has to look like everything is Americanized and everything, to my point of view.
Sure.
I think I understand why that is important, but since I know, because I of course know that Stephen and Robin and all the scientists look at other science.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they do that, and as you say, there is a reference back here, but that is not visible. If you go to an online program, it doesn't say, hey, look at this study, right. Look at this. This is what we base it on. Look at this droplet study here, or look at this flow study here from fan. So it is very internal, and that kind of reinforces to me the view that it's American studies for America. I'm not saying it isn't for America, because that's the Grand Four. It's not for the world. I'm saying that if there was a little bit of more influences, maybe it would soften up and make people curious to actually read other scientific studies than just the UL stuff.
Well, I felt at some point, as part of the UL panel, I was encouraged to look into those sources, and I really appreciate that they strive to incorporate some of these outside point of view. And I would say that probably for these fire attack study last panel, I would say almost 15% of a panel is coming from outside the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite a bit. In that panel being implied on the study also makes it validates a little bit these researches, these reports, I would say. But definitely, we Europeans, we should look more into how to implement that with fire research. We've done a lot, but we've failed, and we should go again, implement it in a way in the Forest Service.
I think we all got some work to do.
We do.
And hopefully this program in the future can hopefully bridge that gap that we're talking about. We're getting the signal here that we need to start wrapping it up here.
Okay. So what's your future hope for FDIC International? Where do you want it to go? If you were to say, because we started, our fire engineers starting to look at the international perspective.
Yeah, well,
where do you think they want to go?
I guess the first thing off the top of my head is more international attendees, which is, I get it, it's a long trip, and I understand that, but also instructors, more instructors. I just want people to be more open-minded and to different perspectives. That's all I really want from this show, and then FDIC International as well, which we're both working towards. There's so many good answers out there. There's so many places that do things right, even if it's a little bit different. As long as you're open-minded and willing to learn, I think that's a good first step for me.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think that would bring more attendees from like Europe?
Well, I think publicity should be, no, some publicity will probably help. And as well, as soon as some more international attendees instructors will be here, probably we'll get some more international attendees as well. It is, otherwise, it seems like if it was all American instructors, there'd be a show for Americans by Americans. As soon as you bring in people from other countries, you'll probably see as well that, well, it's not only an American perspective. We're going to be able to see some other perspectives from international wise, and yeah, basically that will probably help a lot. And I think it's a great job being done. I mean, how this changed is only 1 year since this is being called FDIC International, and we can see some classes taught in Spanish. That was pretty
cool.
pretty neat.
Yeah,
And
pretty
that
cool.
way, Latin America is certainly a growing firefighting culture.
Yeah.
What I've seen of training in Argentina, I've seen passionate firefighting over there.
In Peru and Lima.
Yeah, that is. I mean,
in Chile.
Yeah,
Oh, you talk about some passion there.
Yeah, they have it. They have it. So as soon as that goes, also, and then you provide some Spanish, either translation or instructors, and then you'll probably be able to grow way bigger than it is right now, which is already big.
And I think what I'm trying, when you're looking at the international perspective, next year, probably what I would like to see, and maybe I would try to do myself, is to make sure that you like do a workshop. We do a workshop with the mix, so that you have one instructor for like the United States, you have one for Sweden, and one for Spain, whatever. So you make workshops where they have to collaborate. And I could even picture myself going like, you have to do this, collaborate, find common ground. But of course, starting with just people that want to do it together. That I think that would be cool to see that people from all around the world can collaborate on one workshop and teaching whatever could fire science and build it up to fire tactics or something.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea actually.
International arena. Yep.
Real quick before we go, I just want to say thank you to Scott and Shannon for
thank
being behind the scenes, but doing all the real work for this show.
Yeah,
So,
came in
thank
and
you
go
guys.
like, hey.
On the dark side.
And then we'll see you guys again. And then next up, I believe we have iWomen coming.
Yep.
iWomen will be coming up soon. So thank you, everybody.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
I'll give you a corrected address. We do have a fire in a one-story ordinary. Looks like it's about 40 by 120 to 125. Get your traffic control. Squad 5, Squad 5. Over to 273, 273. Over Battalion 18, 18 Battalion. With a 273, 273.
Unmuted.
Hi, I'm Angie Hughes, President of the International Association of Women in the Fire Service. And today we're here live from FDIC with my good friend, Lisa Baker. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Lisa Baker, and I'm a battalion chief from the Oakland, California Fire Department.
Yes, and we're here representing iWomen, the iWomen organization. If you're not familiar with iWomen, it's the International Organization for Women in Fire and Emergency Services. And we're actually really excited to be here at FDIC. Both of us are instructors. Lisa taught
the assessment center process, how to be successful.
Yes, and tomorrow I'll be teaching a lessons learned class. That'll be really exciting. If you're here, come join us. So we're excited that next year iWomen will have their leadership conference co-located with FDIC. That's pretty cool. And what do you think is the best thing about that?
I think it will expose a lot more individuals to that there is actually a Women in Fire Service organization, and also give the women an opportunity to come to FDIC.
Absolutely, and I am personally looking forward to the hot classes. So our classroom, our leadership conference will be one day on Monday, and then we'll have the opportunity to do hot classes, and then come to the whole conference event. And if you're a member of iWomen, Penwell is offering a discount too, so that's an added plus.
And also an added plus is will be the president of iWomen, Angie, will actually be the keynote speaker next year. So it'll be only the second time in the history of FDIC that they've had a women keynote speaker.
Pretty excited, and Steve Pegram is going to be a tough act to follow. He was pretty great. So if you have any questions about the organization or about the conference, the number is, the guest call-in number is 760-454-8852. 760-454-8852. I think we just finished up our international conference in Sacramento. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, every other year we have a full conference in a different city. Last year was Sacramento, and in 2018 it's open for bid right now.
Yes.
And there's some running candidates, I guess, that are interested in it. So
yes,
look on the website. Usually they open it up. Usually it's around February through March. Is the time frame.
And we're hoping for East Coast Conference. And for next year, when FDIC announces their call for papers, iWomen will be looking for instructors, much like Lisa and myself, that want to come and share their message. So be sure you check out the website and follow that too.
And actually, iWomen, if for those who aren't really familiar with it, it's a great organization. It's inclusive. I think this past year in Sacramento, we had, I believe it was 11% attendance rate of males.
Yes.
So we did have quite a few males there. And the women conferences, we have hands-on as well as classroom sessions that are taught by both females and males.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's a great time to just network and learn more about each other. And actually, one of the fire chiefs, I think he was from the Colorado area, wasn't he?
Yes.
He actually stood up at the end and said this was probably one of the best experiences he had, and he learned a lot from coming to the iWomen conference, just about what's important to us and how we can all work together. And I think that's a really big part of it. Is it's not about I am woman, hear me roar, or we're different. We want to be a family. We want to be an inclusive organization that works for the betterment of the department, because that's what it's all about. The brotherhood, the sisterhood. We're one family, and we shouldn't be adversarial to each other. We should build each other up, not break each other down.
I mean, we're all stronger together, and that's one of the reasons we want men to understand that they could join our organization just as well as women.
Yeah, it's a great time.
fire camps that Angie was speaking about, it gives girls the opportunity to see other firefighters that are women, if they've not been exposed to women firefighters, to understand that women are firefighters and that they can also become a firefighter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of stigma about, you have to have a certain percentage of women, or you have to lower the standards, and that's one thing that we try to encourage people that that's not what we want. And if we start them at a young age and train them about being physically fit and great work ethic, that those kids can really build them up and help them to be successful. So what else can you think about that's going pretty cool with iWomen? I mean, of course, we're super excited to become FDIC experience.
I think the FDIC is really important. I think that we're expanding the mentorship program that we have with iWomen. So we have a list of people that have volunteered to be mentors that are willing to mentor women throughout the entire
ranks.
Yes, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're a firefighter, you might be able to mentor a fire chief. I mean, it doesn't have to be that a firefighter is mentoring a firefighter and such. And it's throughout the entire country. So we're paramount to meet the needs of the individual.
Absolutely.
So I think that's humongous. I mean, I know that a mentor could guide you to like a lot of the right decisions and career paths down the way. So.
Yeah, Lisa's been really great in her class that she taught yesterday. It was about the assessment center, and I was very successful in promoting to fire captain after taking her class. It gave me a lot of pointers and things, and it's nice to have somebody you can reach out to and share their experiences and advice and tips.
And that's one of the things that we try to encourage all women that are within the iWomen organization is to reach out to other women. Because unfortunately, there's still departments that have very few women, and so if something's happening in the organization, or organization where you feel safe, so to speak, confident of a woman about an incident or how they should handle it.
And a lot of our radio shows too, we're fortunate to be here live, focus on different topics. So today we didn't have a specific topic, but we wanted to talk about the conference experience. We do talks on maternity and breastfeeding. We've done legal issues. The last one I believe was physical fitness and CPAP. That's another hot topic. You know, we do endorse utilizing CPAP. So some good stuff. And today, again, we're just so excited to be here and share this conference experience. And one thing I try to share with younger and newer people in fire service is that you do have to invest in yourself, because you know those who show up, right? Yeah. So coming to a conference like FDIC, wow, how many people are here this year? You think it's 30-something, right?
Yeah, it's 35,000 members here. It's a great opportunity to network, meet individuals. You start talking to people from other agencies, and you realize that a lot of the agencies have the same problems and same struggles as your own agency. Give you a lot of the opportunity to bounce different ideas off of each other and just get different perspectives from male and female thought process of things that are occurring.
I just had in Chief Sokka last evening and Chief Hoevelmann's emerging issues in the fire department, fire service, I guess. And we talked a lot about mental health and cancer and those things that were, it's not just, you know, it's everywhere. It's in all the different fire departments. And just to be here with those people and to hear what their perspectives are and viewpoints, and so much to learn.
There is a lot to learn. I mean, if you're not exposed to your own agency having those issues, to realize that that's emerging in right now in fire services, like we're talking cancer the fire service. All our organizations need to take a step back and realize what can we do for our own organization to make sure that we're taking care of our own members. Because as emergency responders, we're always so concerned with making sure the members of our own community are being taken care of and respond to 911 calls. But I think we need to take a step back and make sure that we're providing the same level of care to our own members within our agencies with regards to cancer and mental health.
Absolutely. And one of the young men stood up and he asked Chief Holt, you know, if you could look back at yourself, what advice would you give your 30-year-old self? You know, well, the first one was he never sell his Jaguar, which was pretty funny that he had, but as a young man. But the second one was to be nicer, you know, to take care of each other. I think that's really one of the things that it's okay to say, I need help, and it's okay to reach out to other people and support each other.
And And I think it's been kind of known and published and such that firefighters and any emergency service, one of them, that's one of the drawbacks of your personality is because you're so used to always helping everybody else, to asking for the help. It seems like you're not as strong as you should be to ask for the help. And that's one of the things I think that we need to get across to everyone in the fire service is that it's all right to ask for help. Yeah, we're exposed to so many different things on a daily basis. It's like we have a backpack. You just keep putting more and more into my backpack. And if there's a point where the backpack overflows, we need an opportunity to speak to someone about the calls we're going on and such. So that mental health and cancer it's the forefront of our children's strategy.
Last week it said, this is, we shouldn't see this number and say what we experience. We're just regular people. That's the one thing that the huge takeaway has from their class today is to take care of each other. And I think that's been a big focus on this conference when it relates to mental health and cancer issues.
But I mean, going off the side of it about taking care of each other, we need to do that when members first come into the organization as well, so to speak. Because I mean, hazing and such is not as prevalent as it was in the past, but sometimes we still, when we get new members in, kind of shun them to some regard about that's the new person who does that, that's the new person. So I think we need to start it when we first come in the door as well, and we need to take care of everyone and make sure that we treat everyone fairly.
And there's been such a changeover in the fire service with losing such of those traditions. Yeah, and just the knowledge, and the younger people are promoting and coming in, and they don't have a good grasp of that kind of stuff. And it is important because you feel welcome somewhere. You're going to be a much happier person. You're going to be a better employee,
and you're going to be more productive. You're going to want to come and help. You're going to want to volunteer. You're going to want to see your organization grow to the next level. I think that's why everyone is in the fire service wanting to help people. They pick an organization that they feel comfortable with generally, and they want to see that organization be the best of a world-class organization, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if we treat all our members equally and such, we have an organization where everybody respects everybody.
Yeah. So if you have a bigger class that you've taken so far, or event, I know tonight we're going to do the 5K.
That would be fun. We did 5K today. The opening ceremony yesterday was outstanding. It was amazing opening ceremony. And FDIC is just an excellent show. It's the first time I've ever actually been here, and I'm kind of stopping myself wondering why I've never come here before.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know. I'm excited next year to bring my boys with me there in the fire department and let them experience this because just gotta be here. It's a great place to be.
I've actually seen a lot of people from the West Coast here, and so I mean, there's a large group of individuals that have met some outstanding people over there. Yes, I've become.
Well, you can obviously tell we're having a great time here at FDIC, and we thank you for listening in. We have to, of course, thank the sponsor of the Fire Engineering Talk Radio show, Right Rescue Systems, for supporting this and allowing us to be here, and of course, all our friends at the Fire Engineering and FDIC, and all the amazing people that do all the behind-the-scenes work. So we'll hope to see you here next year. If you have any questions or want to know more about the iWomen organization, you can check out the website, iWomen.org. And we'd love to see you at our conference. Remember, coffee papers are coming out. Anybody can do it. Hey, we're here, right?
Yeah, we're here.
Thank you all. You have a great day.
Have a great day.